Hi, my name's Adi, and today I'm going to teach you how to play a hammer-on. Now, if you haven't come across my channel before, I'm a guitar teacher giving lots of complimentary and free guitar lessons. So if you're looking to improve on your guitar playing, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and also check out some of my other videos for more guitar lessons. Today we're going to look at a beginner's lesson, and that's simply how to play a hammer-on. It's a very important technique used in lots of different styles and situations. So regardless of what you're looking to do and where you're looking to progress, it's one that you need to be able to do well. Now we're going to look at it in two places. We're going to look at it in context of an open string hammer-on, and then we're going to look at it a little bit further at the neck so that you can include some lead playing and such later on. So if we look at the open string hammer-on first of all, what I mean by open string is that a hammer-on usually involves two notes. I say usually because not always, but usually there is a preceding note played, a note that's played before the hammer-on. In this instance, we're going to play an open string hammer-on. So I'm going to play a note on an open string, and then hammer on to another note afterwards. So in this instance, I've used the third fret of my thick E string, and you saw or heard hopefully as well that there was a second note that sounded, even though I'd only picked the string once. So the only note I've actually picked is that first note. After that, the second note is created by the hammer-on technique, which I'm using my left hand for. Now the technique is all about momentum and accuracy. Now all I'm really doing is slamming my finger down onto the string, which causes the string to vibrate. And it will vibrate against one of the metal frets. That will in turn shorten the length of the string between that fret and the bridge. Still vibrating from the momentum will create a note which is higher in pitch to the one that we'd previously picked, and that's where we get the sound from with a hammer-on. Now because it's all about that vibration and keeping the string shortened to exactly the same length, really what we want to make sure we're doing is we're being really accurate with our hammer-ons, so that we can then hold the note in place afterwards and sustain it. It's not so much about the power. Okay, the power is important to a certain extent, but you really don't need very much. It doesn't make that much difference to the overall sound. So when I talk about accuracy, what I'm talking about is when we thud our finger down onto the string, I want you to thud it down as close to the fret as you can without actually being over the top of it. So with my third fret here, rather than thudding down either directly on top of it or back towards the middle of the fret here, I want to be just behind that fret marker, right behind it, as close as I can be. If you're not sure how close that should be, just fret the note normally and try and walk your finger, or slide it rather, as close to the fret you can be without the note cutting out like this. That point where you are as close as you can be and get a good clean note is the point that you want to play your hammer on. That's where you want to be thudding your finger down to. So you need to develop accuracy with that, and accuracy of course comes from practice. But if you're trying to do it too hard, then you will struggle with that accuracy. So you need to make sure you're nice and relaxed and make sure that you are concentrating on that accuracy. And the technique is just about momentum. So your finger just has to come down quick enough to cause that string to vibrate. So the way to do that is to simply hover your finger already over the note. So choose a finger. In this instance, I'm going to use my first finger. You can use any. You should practice with all of them. I'm going to play the note. Because it's open, I don't have to rush anything. And then I'm just going to thud my finger down that string. And just try and find the perfect amount of momentum and the perfect spot to give me a good clean note. Now I'm using the tip of my finger here to hammer onto. You'll always be using the tips of your fingers. There's not a precise point. It will change a little bit depending on where you're stretching to and the chord shapes you're using, but it's always on the tip of your finger. The idea of using the tip of your finger is that it's not quite the softest part. So if you use the front side of your fingertip, it's quite fleshy. Coming down a bit more towards the top, you get the bone, and that will give you a more solid contact. It's also worth noting at this point that if you're new to playing the guitar, you'll have really soft fingers. As you progress and practice more, the tips of your fingers become more solid, and that really aids this technique and a lot of other techniques. If you've got a soft finger, then rather than getting an instant contact, the flesh will sort of break the fall, if you like, and will soften up the hammer on. So the more you do this, the easier it becomes, even if it feels difficult at first. Now you should practice this technique with all your fingers, okay? So I'm using the first finger there, but I should still be able to do it with any other finger, hammering onto pretty much any fret. And I'll probably say concentrate mostly on the first 3 fingers at first. You find the little finger pretty hard, but it's one that you will start using later on, so you might as well practice it now. Now that's the open string hammer-ons. You will still play the hammer-ons further up the neck as well, and they will feel slightly different. Mostly because you're going to be holding down the note before the one that you play, so your hand's going to be closer to the guitar already. So if I let's put my finger down here on the 7th fret. I'm on the D string at the moment, which is the 4th one up, the 4th string. If I was just to pick that string, or that note rather, I'll get that sound. If I use my hammer-on technique to hammer down onto a fret after it, using one of my other fingers, again I'll get a raise of the pitch. And a new note. Now, personally I find this a little bit easier, or I certainly did when I was learning anyway. Because you're already holding down a note, it pushes the strings altogether closer to the fretboard, which makes it a lot easier to do your second hammer on. You'll find that you don't need as much force. And the further down the neck you go, the less force it tends to be required. So it's worth getting used to any technique that you're learning from the start. There's a different tension on the strings depending on where you are playing. And that's always worth being aware of when you're doing stuff. So you might one day be going along here and thinking, oh, this is quite easy. Next minute, try to do it back here. And it's a bit more difficult. So it's worth noticing that where you are on the guitar will change the way it feels, and you might find it easier one way or another. But again, all I've done here is I've held down a note, I'm picking that note, and then without picking the strings again, just thudding my finger onto the fretboard. Trying to be as accurate as possible, again, trying to get right up towards the end of that fret, so I'm just behind the fret marker. And that will give me a good, clean, sustained note. Now I'm using a reasonably distorted tone here. The more distortion you use, the more external sound you'll get, because it will cause all the other strings to vibrate. And as you progress on, you'll need to learn to deal with that with extra muting techniques with the right and left hand. But at first, you just want to get used to the motion and get used to the kind of momentum and pressure that you require to play these hammer-ons across different strings. Now I've just done that on the B string there, but you can do this anywhere. It doesn't really matter. You can practice it with single hammer-ons, or you can play a couple of hammer-ons in a row. Using different finger patterns and working on them each to make sure you can use any combination of fingers, and eventually be able to do this anywhere over the neck. Now, in terms of applying this stuff to your playing, the obvious place to apply to this playing is when you're doing lead melodies and such. So if you're just playing a few notes, it's quite easy to kind of chuck this stuff in and create different sounds. You can use it for the effect of the sound, which is slightly smoother. You can use it to create speed, which is quite a cool thing to do. Or you can use it in your rhythm playing. So there's lots of places you're going to use and apply it, depending on the styles you follow and the sort of things you want to play. That's where I'm going to leave it for today. In terms of practicing it, you just want to do small repetitions. Just take the particular hammer-on that you want to work on and just spend a minute just working on that particular hammer-on. If you just do some short practice sessions of a minute each on anything you want to work on, it's the quickest way to grow your or develop rather your technique in the shortest amount of time. That's a better way of doing it rather than trying to play a great big lick and then playing one hammer on the end. You're better off just doing something short and sweet. Now, if you have any questions, please do free to ask them below. Just to repeat, this technique is all about accuracy and momentum. So you want to be hammering right towards the end of the fret, right behind the fret wire there. The momentum just needs to be quick enough to cause the string to vibrate. So you need to experiment and find what that is. You will find that it might be different on different guitars depending on how high the strings are and how much tension there is on them. So you're going to have to develop it as a feel, which means exercising this on different guitars or on different parts of the neck. So you get used to adjusting to where you need it. And thirdly, just a reminder that this is much easier once you've practiced it for a while as you develop the calluses on the end of your fingertips. If you're fresh to the guitar, they are going to be soft and that will counteract the action of the hammer-on. So don't be too concerned if you don't get this straight away. Do stick at it. It will just start coming. Now, if you have any questions, stick them down in the comment section below. Please check out some of our other videos. And thank you very much for watching today. Take care and I'll see you soon. Bye.